You wake before dawn, the house still wrapped in quiet, and already your face feels heavy. Another day begins with the same polished grin you slip on like a uniform. It sits there, immaculate, while somewhere deep inside a small voice whispers that none of this is truly yours. You move through morning motions almost automatically, adjusting the mask's straps so no edge cuts too hard, rehearsing the lines that guarantee harmony, profit, approval. You perform well. You always have. Underneath the performance, a fatigue settles in your bones that no amount of sleep ever shakes. It is not life that exhausts you. It is the never-ending effort to prop up an identity built for other people's comfort. A careful nod here, a practiced laugh there, the impeccable calm that keeps every gathering smooth. From a distance you look whole. Up close you feel hollow, like a house staged for sale. Lights on, furniture perfect. Nobody actually lives there. These masks are considered good masks. They are reasonable, polite, productive, resilient. They win compliments. They diffuse conflict. They keep the family table peaceful and the office humming. Yet they are stitched from expectations you never signed. Each morning you glue them over a face you have not properly seen in years. The glue burns, but you smile brighter, hoping the sting stays hidden. Anxiety hums through your chest with no clear source. It is not the traffic or the deadlines. It is the daily alienation of speaking with a borrowed tongue, loving with borrowed gestures, breathing through a borrowed story. You notice it most at night, when the house falls silent again and the mask starts to slip. In that thin moment, you remember a younger self who laughed too loudly, who trembled openly, who loved clumsily and real. You turn away from the memory because tomorrow demands polish. There is a cruel paradox here. The closer you come to flawless compliance, the further you drift from anything that feels alive. Perfection promises safety, yet delivers invisibility. The applause grows louder, and somehow you vanish behind it. Every time you meet an expectation, a part of you packs its suitcase and walks out the back door. Room by room, the true inhabitant leaves until only the set remains. If we are honest, the pain is not proof that you are broken or unworthy. The ache exists because the person you once were has been absent for far too long, and the body, loyal to its own truth, keeps sounding the alarm until someone finally hears. Positive thinking became the gospel of this era, a glittering promise that a bright mantra can bleach out every shadow. You repeated affirmations until your jaw ached, pasted gratitude lists across the fridge, forced a grin when grief clenched your throat. The surface gleamed, yet underneath the same old dread kept echoing. Most psychologists will not tell you that optimism is powerless when it has to press through a mask. A masked smile is not joy. It is camouflage. Every cheerful statement becomes another coat of paint on a cracked wall. The cracks stay, widening in silence. The culture chants "find yourself" as if identity were a misplaced wallet. The slogan skips the brutal truth that you cannot locate a self while performing a role written by someone else. Childhood hands you that script. Love arrives only when you fit the part. Maybe you learned to be the quiet caretaker, the golden achiever, the ever-forgiving clown. The applause felt like safety, so you stitched the costume to your skin. Years later, the stitches cut deeper than any external wound, yet taking off the outfit feels like losing air. No self emerges under a spotlight built for another character. Adult life turns into theater. Workplace halls echo like backstage corridors. Family dinners feel like rehearsed scenes. Even intimate moments carry the faint odor of grease paint. You catch your reflection in a dark window and see eyes framed by makeup that never washes off. Memory blurs. You forget the first day the disguise slid on, only that now it refuses to peel away. The world claps for the act and calls it authenticity. Inside, The unused parts of you start pounding against the dressing room door. Self-sabotage enters like a villain, yet it is not weakness. It is rebellion against inauthenticity. The missed deadline, the lost keys, the relationship you quietly torch, each is a flare from the true self shouting that the play must stop. You label it lazy, irresponsible, broken. In reality, it is a protest demanding freedom, a refusal to spend another season mouthing lines that taste like dust. Sabotage is the psyche choosing truth over applause. Here is the core that slices clean through every illusion. You suffer not because something is wrong with you, but because you are living someone else's life. The pain is proof of your own existence, still pulsing under the prosthetics, insisting that it was never meant to disappear. If these words resonate, subscribe to the channel so more people can finally hear the truth that has been kept from them. Listen closely. The mask you wear is not a lie you invented out of vanity. It was forged in the oldest furnace the mind knows: survival. A child scans the room and learns that safety is conditional. Praise arrives when certain traits shine. Disapproval thunders when other traits slip through. In those small electric moments, the nervous system wires itself for one goal: belong or perish. It chisels a face that pleases the tribe, then welds it in place. Protection becomes personality. Years pass, danger fades, yet the mask stays because the body still remembers the original bargain. Hide what threatens attachment, display what secures it. Carl Jung called the hidden material the shadow. Anything pushed outside conscious awareness does not disappear. It crouches beneath the floorboards, collecting strength, directing choices from the dark. Rage denied grows into passive-aggressive sabotage. Grief silenced drains color from every hour. Desire shamed mutates into envy that corrodes intimacy. Whatever the mask cannot permit, the shadow inherits, and the shadow wants expression. Like steam sealed in iron, it finds cracks and forces release, often at the worst time and place. Inside you live entire sub-personalities that carry out this secret script. The convenient one always says yes, even while the stomach knots with resentment. The strong one refuses rest, piling tasks until the heart pounds like an alarm. The stoic drapes a calm smile over boiling terror, then wonders why shoulders lock and migraines bloom. The rescuer intercepts every conflict, rescuing others and abandoning the self. Each part began as a genius adaptation. Each part now rules like a dictator convinced its era of war still rages. Parents rarely intend harm. Their love simply arrives with conditions shaped by their own masks. They reward self-control, punish raw feeling, praise achievement, frown at vulnerability. The child, hungry for warmth, edits the self accordingly. Over time, the edit becomes the only readable draft. The original manuscript, loud, sensitive, creative, messy, sprawls forgotten in a locked drawer. Adult life then unfolds as a play written by ghosts of parental approval. You chase accolades that once earned a smile at the dinner table, not realizing the script no longer fits the stage you stand on. When the true self remains underground, the body becomes its spokesperson. Unnamed grief settles into the lungs as breath that never feels full. Chronic fatigue whispers that no energy remains for performances. Stomach pain flags the refusal to digest a life that tastes false. Skin eruptions mark the urge to crawl out of your own surface. Doctors treat organs, specialists prescribe regimens, yet the symptom often persists because the real patient is the exiled self pounding on the door. Conventional therapy sometimes fails for the same reason. You sit in a calm office describing anxiety, insomnia, numbing routines. Techniques target thought loops, breathing patterns, daily habits. Relief emerges, yet something deeper remains untouched. The work hovers around the mask, smoothing its edges, polishing its sheen, teaching you to tolerate its weight. The session ends. You step outside, and the mask snaps back, immaculate, undefeated. The deeper wound stays unstitched because dismantling the mask threatens the entire architecture of identity. Few professionals risk pulling that thread. Here lies the paradox that confuses every seeker. The mask once saved your life. Without it, you might have drowned in neglect, rejection, chaos. Gratitude toward that old protector is valid. At the same time, the protector never received an update. It still guards a child who no longer exists, in a war that ended long ago. What saved you then now suffocates you. Holding gratitude and grief in the same palm feels strange, yet both are true. The path forward is not a violent ripping away. Tearing the mask in one motion can shatter the nervous system and invite a flood of shadow material too intense to integrate. The task instead is a patient ungluing. You meet each sub-personality, thank it for service, and ask what it needs to relax. The convenient one often craves boundaries. The strong one longs to be carried. The stoic aches for a witness who will not recoil at raw emotion. The rescuer quietly dreams of being rescued. As these parts receive what they were denied, they soften. Space opens for a face that belongs to you alone. Integration does not feel heroic. It feels awkward, slow, embarrassingly human. You speak a truth and your voice trembles. You leave a task unfinished and guilt flares. You admit exhaustion and the old chorus of judgment shouts from memory. Each time you choose authenticity over approval, the chorus weakens by a note. Eventually silence follows, and in that quiet, you hear the steady pulse of a life that no longer requires theater. Remember this whenever shame whispers that you should have healed already. The mask formed over years of high-stakes rehearsal. It will demand patience to retire. Progress measures itself in subtle metrics, a breath that reaches deeper into the belly, a shoulder that drops a fraction lower, a laugh that arrives unplanned and stays. The body records every honest moment like a new language lesson. Fluency grows. One final truth deserves daylight. You are not wrong for wearing the mask. You are not broken for wanting to remove it. Both movements belong to the same instinct, the instinct to live. The mask was life in a dangerous season. Discarding it is life in the season that begins now. The shadow only attacks when ignored. When welcomed, it becomes raw material for art, intimacy, leadership, presence. Under every layer of old paint waits the grain of real wood, warm, flawed, unmistakably alive. Pause here and feel that warmth. It pulses beneath habitual armor, ready to rise. The path is fierce, unfinished, and utterly worthwhile. The greatest relief will not come from more perfect acting. It will come the moment the stage lights dim, the audience files out, and you step backstage to meet the person who has been practicing these lines for far too long. Hand them the script. Say that the show is over. Then watch a different story begin. Begin with the simplest move. Watch yourself. Tonight, when the house sinks into its slow breath, open a notebook and list the roles you played today. Write them as if casting a play. The reliable worker who nods through unreasonable demands. The pleasant friend who laughs at every joke. The unshakable parent who never lets fear crease a brow. Allow the page to gather each persona without judgment. This small ritual, repeated night after night, turns into a role journal. Patterns surface. You see which masks dominate the stage, which ones appear only around certain people, and which moments leave you drained because the performance demanded more life than you had to give. Next, map the sparks that set those masks in motion. Fold another page and draw a rough outline of a human shape. Mark every place tension pulses when a specific role snaps on. Shoulders that lift whenever authority enters the room. A throat that tightens when praise might be withheld. A stomach that clenches before family dinners. This is your trigger map. It shows that the body feels the mask before the mind names it. Each point on that map is a doorway back to the part of you that learned long ago to brace for impact. When the journal and the map start telling a clearer story, step into the inner theater. Close your eyes, breathe until the chest loosens, then picture a stage in soft light. Invite one masked part to walk out from the wings. Perhaps the convenient one appears first, hands folded, eyes searching for approval. Instead of tearing off its disguise, sit in the front row and let it speak. Ask what it fears would happen if it ever said no. Listen without interruption. When it finishes, thank it for protecting the fragile child who once needed acceptance at any cost. Promise that you will handle the next request together, and that refusal can now coexist with love. The mask does not fall. It loosens of its own accord because it finally feels seen. Shadow work begins here in this gentle witnessing. Every exiled emotion waits backstage for an audience that will not boo it off the boards. Rage wants to explain how many insults it swallowed. Sorrow wants to sing the song that was silenced. Desire wants permission to glow without shame. Meet each figure with the same steady gaze. The moment you stop pretending they are monsters, they step forward as allies carrying energy you can reclaim. Avoid the temptation to rip the entire costume in one sweeping gesture. Sudden exposure shocks the nervous system and tempts the old guard to rebuild even thicker armor. Acceptance is the solvent that weakens the glue. Each time you acknowledge a masked impulse without obeying it, fibers loosen. Each time you honor a shadow feeling without acting it out, threads give way. Eventually, the fabric slides to the floor, almost casually, like a coat shrugged off at the door of your own home. Freedom is not about discovering some pristine, authentic self hiding behind the curtain. Liberation arrives when you no longer need to contort into versions sculpted by someone else. The stage remains. Life still asks for performance, yet now the script moves through a body that answers only to its own pulse. Picture the closing image. A dim room lined with masks, every expression crafted to please, to soothe, to dominate, to entertain. In the center stands a figure holding a hand mirror. For the first time, the glass reflects a face uncorrected, eyes bright with the shock of oxygen, skin alive with unfiltered blood. It is imperfect and utterly unmistakable. That moment is not an ending. It is the first breath of an unchoreographed existence. Under all those layers, there was never a void. There was always you. If you are ready to stop playing roles, write, "I take off my masks" in the comments. Let us see who here is ready for real life. This is only the beginning. What you have hidden for so long can become your strength.